now to file item number 12, ACR 166, Assemblymember Ramos. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 166 by Assemblymember Ramos relative to the Federal Indian Citizenship Act of 1924.
Assemblymember Ramos, you are recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to present ACR 166, which commemorates the centennial of the Federal Indian Citizenship Act. The act signed by President Coolidge on June 2, 1924, granted citizenship to Native Americans born within the United States. This past weekend, Frank Ramirez and Native veterans gathered at the park here in the Capitol to commemorate this passage that moved forward here in the federal government. But we have to bring up that when that passage happened in 1924, there was no Native American voices there working on the passage of this act. And they weren't even part of the discussion or involved in the creation of the act. Today, we know that that is very much different here in this legislature, where we bring in the Native American voices ahead of time. Although the act was signed in 1924, voting rights were not granted across the nation until as late as 1948, when Alaska and Arizona granted voting rights to Native Americans. Voting rights were reinforced with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. But unfortunately, there still are barriers that exist here in the state of California and across the nation for the Native American population to be able to vote and provide the democratic right that we have. Additionally, in June, we also celebrate two more historical events on the path forward to full recognition of Native American civil rights. We remember Alice Piper, a 15-year-old Paiute pupil who made history also on June 2nd, 1924, when her parents sued Big Pine School District of Inyo County to integrate their classrooms. On that day, 100 years ago, the California Supreme Court unanimously sided with Alice on the basis that her parents were tax-paying citizens of the United States. That representation represented a significant step forward toward complete recognition of Indian Citizenship Act that's there. 30 years later, in 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court, Justice Earl Warren, used this case as a precedent for the landmark Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka that declared public school segregation unconstitutional in the United States. Finally, in 2 weeks, on June 18th, California Native Americans will mark the 5th anniversary of Governor Gavin Newsom's apology to the state's California's first people for the heinous crimes and genocide committed against them in the history of the state of California. This too is a step forward, but we still have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do to move forward on the voices of California's first people and the voices of this nation's first people. As we celebrate these historical and monumentous occasions, let us continue to recognize the contributions of Native Americans and their battle for civil rights and justice that still exists today. And when it's appropriate, I ask that the roll be open for co-authors on this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll on co-authors. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote as a co-author. Clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. There are 64 co-authors added. Without objection, we will take a voice vote on the resolution. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Assemblymember Ramos, you are recognized for your guest introductions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have in the gallery representatives that are here from the Big Pine Indian Reservation, and those are celebrating that historical contribution to the state of California, as well as Mr. Frank Ramirez representing veterans, Native American veterans. Please give them a round of applause.
Thank you and welcome. Welcome.